In today's video, we're going to be looking at the Jackson Hole Virtual Symposium. We're also going to be looking at the New Zealand Stock Exchange and what the ASX is doing. Hello and welcome to another ACY Securities Market Update. My name is Alistair Schultz and I'm going to be your host through today's trading journey. The first thing I'm going to go through today is give you a bit of a rundown on what has happened at market open. We've seen markets being quite mixed. US Treasury yields have risen in response to what we've heard from Fed Powell overnight. Asian equities started off mixed. We've seen Japanese, Australian and Hong Kong futures feeling a bit flat. We've also had the S&P 500 reach a new all-time high for the 5th consecutive day, likely in response to what we've heard from Fed Powell overnight. The Nasdaq set a brand new record again as well. However, it did close in the red. Now we've seen crude oil and gas slump due to Hurricane Laura, and of course gold has edged down based off what's gone on in the US with Fed Powell. This is the 4th time for gold edging down in a row. Now, having a look at the Jackson Hole Virtual Symposium. This is usually meant to be a 1 year every year, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we've seen it being a 1.5 year turnaround. Now, Fed Powell announced new measures and ways of controlling policies at the Federal Reserve. The first thing is that he's going to be looking at targeting inflation and employment. And they're going to be letting it run hot, meaning that they're going to try and let it run as high as it can, as opposed to trying to moderate it and keep things down. The change to inflation is also a little bit different. In the past, they've looked for a 2% target. This time around, it's an average of 2%. So this means that we're likely going to be seeing low interest rates for a much longer period of time, with my expectations on the forecast being seen by what other committee members have said, where they're looking beyond 2022 as a likely truthful fact to come out of it. Now, the chance of all this sort of happening overnight, I feel personally at the September meeting, they're probably going to want to get a start on all of this, and there probably will be some major changes towards how they tackle monetary policy. When it comes to what they're doing here, it is for good reason. If we look back at 1977, when we saw the dual mandate go into effect, it was a very different time. High unemployment with high inflation, and that has been the same motto they have used for a very long time now without any changes. So this is a good sign to say that the Fed is starting to update to fit the economic environment that it's situated in currently. Now, of course, keeping an eye on what happens over the long term. They are going to be targeting the economic growth on jobs first before they start considering what happens with inflation. So the chances are they are going to let this run for a significant amount of time, purely because we've already got an unemployment rate above 10%, and until that gets to an attractive level, they will probably let everything run a little bit hotter than usual. Now, moving on for the day, we've got trading halted again for the New Zealand Stock Exchange. The NZX has had 4 days in a row of disruptions. They failed to open this morning, opening much later in the day, closer to 1 p.m, with trading commencing then. And so far, they've seen 1 hour cut out on Tuesday, 3 hours on Wednesday, 6 hours on Thursday, and another 3 today. At this point in time, it's obvious they're getting cyber hacked, but no one has really stepped forward to say that they're looking for a ransom of any kind. And of course, the New Zealand Stock Exchange hasn't given us any indicators or clues as to who might be conducting these cyber DDoS attacks. Now, moving forward again for today, we're looking at the ASX. Now, I've noticed it underperforming against its Asian peers. This chart that I've got here, I've sourced from Bloomberg, and it shows you just how far below it is on some of the other peer members on the index spectrum. Now, as well, something to keep you interested, that if you have a look at what it is in terms of the amount of short positions that are on the ASX, it only weighs about 1.67%. But if we look at the biggest ones with shorts against them, we have Webjet, we then have Seven Group, and a few other companies along the way, with the biggest one sitting at around that 14% and hovering around there for a while. Now, of course, if we look at the ones that are actually suffering, they're also the ones that have been suffering the most due to the pandemic and some of the restrictions that we're seeing from trade, like Ingham's. Now, having a look a little bit further at unemployment, jobless claims for the US have declined yet again, and they are still above 1 million. So we did have a bump down there the other week where we saw it go below 1 million, but it has popped back up. It's 1.01. And of course, we still have a very high number of recurring claims of 14.5 million. Now, regardless of this, it is trending down. So that does signify that to some degree, we are seeing a little bit of recovery in the US economy. Hopefully, what we see out of Fed Powell improves that situation further. Now, one for the stock guys out there, I've been having a look at Dell and HP. Both of these companies have beaten their earnings season estimates. Now, at this point, personal devices have really led the way, meaning that people purchasing laptops and computers for themselves, not company purchases, have been pushed up, with some of them increasing nearly 18% in sales just this year alone. HP has got 14.3 billion as their actual dollar figure, when they were almost 13.3 billion for the forecast. Now, in addition to that, their share price has risen just a little bit to 49 cents per share. Dell has got a slightly better picture, but they are a slightly bigger company. They've made 22.7 billion. They were scheduled to make 22.5, or at least that was estimated. And now their share price has risen nearly 50 cents to 1.92 per share, which is a very nice figure for them. So hopefully anyone who was invested in those has seen a good turnaround. Now, having a look at the news ahead of today, it is a quieter day, particularly because we've had the Jackson Hole Symposium overnight and some of the comments from the Fed. The market seems to be having a little bit of a rest, and that applies to the news as well. Tonight we have from the Swiss the KOF Economic Barometer, which gauges how people are feeling about the economy, including businesses, over the next several months. We've also got Canadian GDP coming out a bit later on, and of course the Bank of England's governor is going to be speaking much later on during the evening. So keep an eye on any of those if you are trading them, but of course have a good weekend ahead. Now, if there's anything from today's video you would like to get in contact with me about, please feel free to shoot me an email at talktoal@acy.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe this video so you can get more great content from me and ACY Securities in the future. Have a great trading day ahead.